The sound of birds chirping and the scent of fresh-cut grass usually make my mornings peaceful. I take pride in my home, a modest but well-kept house at the end of a cul-de-sac. My front yard boasts a lush green lawn, the result of meticulous care, early morning watering, and a top-notch irrigation system. It's a labor of love. But in this neighborhood, being one of the few black homeowners means I always have to prove I belong. This community wasn't built for people like me. When I bought my house 5 years ago, the stairs were subtle but ever-present. The neighborhood HOA, run by retirees with too much time and too little empathy, scrutinized my every move. My garbage cans had to be precisely aligned on trash day. My mailbox had to be repainted twice, even though it looked fine. It was never about rules, it was about control. And at the center of it all, Karen. Karen lives 2 houses down, in a pristine white colonial with an oversized porch and a ridiculous amount of lawn ornaments. She's the self-appointed queen of the HOA, peering through her blinds at anything she deems unacceptable. If she's not filing complaints, she's standing on her porch, arms crossed, watching, waiting. First, I ignored her. But then, strange things started happening. It was subtle at first. I'd wake up to find my hose slightly uncoiled, as if someone had used it and put it back hastily. My water bill started creeping up, nothing drastic, but noticeable. Maybe I was overwatering? Maybe there was a small leak? I didn't want to assume the worst, but something felt off. Then one evening, just after sunset, I heard it. The soft hiss of water spraying against concrete. I stepped onto my porch and saw it. Karen, in her floral robe and fuzzy slippers, holding my hose, watering her lawn like it was the most natural thing in the world. I stood there in stunned silence, watching as she hummed to herself, completely at ease. She had the audacity to steal my water right in front of me. I cleared my throat loudly. Karen jumped, startled, then turned toward me with a smirk. "Oh, didn't see you there," she said, still gripping my hose. "Your pressure is just so much better than mine. HOA regulations, your house has the newer pipes." She waved her hand dismissively, as if I should be grateful for the explanation. I forced a smile, keeping my voice calm. "That's my water, Karen," she scoffed. "Oh, don't be dramatic. It's just a little water. It's not like you own the whole city's supply." Then, as if I were the unreasonable one, she turned off the hose, dropped it onto my lawn, and strolled back to her house without another word. I stood there, my fists clenched, watching the last drops of my water seep into her perfectly manicured grass. This wasn't just about a hose. It was about entitlement, and I wasn't going to let it slide. The next morning, I wake up determined to let it go. It's just water, right? Not worth the trouble. I tell myself this as I sip my coffee on the porch, but the thought gnaws at me. The casual way Karen dismissed me, the sheer audacity, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't a one-time thing. It was a statement. By noon, the sun is high, and my lawn should be damp from the morning watering cycle. But as I step outside, I frown. The soil is dry, too dry. My sprinklers should have run, yet my grass feels like sandpaper beneath my feet. That's when I see it. A faint, muddy trail leading from my backyard toward Karen's property. The hose, which I'd neatly coiled the night before, is now slightly unspooled again. My pulse quickens. I walk over, picking it up, and sure enough, the nozzle is wet. She's been at it again. I march to the side of my house where my outdoor faucet is. The handle is still slightly turned, not all the way off. She wasn't even careful. I glance toward Karen's house. Her sprinklers are running in full force, her grass shimmering under the afternoon sun. Unbelievable. That evening, I decide to test a theory. I shut off my outdoor water supply completely before bed. If she tries again, she'll get nothing. Sure enough, at 5:30 a.m., I wake to an angry, high-pitched sputtering. Peering through my blinds, I see her, robe and slippers again, standing in her yard, furiously shaking my hose like it personally betrayed her. No water is coming out, and she looks downright offended. Then, something shifts in her posture. She turns, eyes locking onto my house, and for a brief second, I feel a chill. There's no guilt, no embarrassment, just annoyance, like she's been inconvenienced. And then, she does something that makes my stomach tighten. She walks right up to my faucet and tries to turn it on herself. My jaw clenches. She stands there for a few seconds, turning the knob back and forth, confusion spreading across her face. Then, with an exasperated sigh, she tosses the hose onto my lawn and stomps back inside. I exhale slowly, hands gripping the windowsill. This isn't just disrespect. This is control. She's acting like my property is hers to use as she pleases. And when she can't have it, she gets mad. It reminds me of the first week I moved in. How Karen warned me about the HOA's strict rules. How she smiled too wide when she said, "We like to keep things a certain way around here." How she suggested I might be happier in a different neighborhood. Back then, I ignored the warning signs. But now I see Karen for exactly who she is. And I know this isn't over. The next morning, I decide I'm done playing games. I knock on Karen's door, firm but polite. Takes her a full minute to open it, and when she does, she doesn't even pretend to be surprised. She leans against the frame, coffee in hand, staring at me like I'm an inconvenience. "I assume this is about that little misunderstanding with the hose?" she says, already sounding defensive. "Not a misunderstanding, Karen. You've been stealing my water." Her expression shifts into something smug. "Oh, please, it's just a little extra watering. We live in a community, don't we? Shouldn't we share resources?" I take a slow breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "Sharing implies permission. You never asked." Karen sighs dramatically. "Look, it's not a big deal. But if you're going to be difficult, maybe I should bring this up with the HOA. We have strict landscaping policies, you know. I noticed your grass is looking a little dry." My jaw tightens. There it is. The unspoken threat. She doesn't care about the water. She cares about control. And she's willing to use the HOA to make my life harder if I don't back down. "Do what you need to do," I say, keeping my voice even. "But stop stealing from me." I turn to leave, but she calls after me, voice saccharine. "Oh, and maybe reconsider that big security camera on your porch. Some of the neighbors think it's a little aggressive." I stop in my tracks. That camera was installed after someone egged my house last year. No one ever found out who did it. But I had my suspicions. This isn't just about water. This is about Karen reminding me that she runs this neighborhood. That she can get away with whatever she wants. And that's when I decide I need proof. That evening, I install a second camera, hidden by the bushes near my outdoor faucet. It has night vision and motion detection. If Karen tries again, I'll have her on video. Sure enough, 2 nights later, I wake up to my phone buzzing, motion detected. I pull up the live feed and feel my pulse spike. There she is, Karen, standing in the dim glow of her porch light, robe tied tightly around her waist. She glances around, then hurries over to my faucet like she owns it. The camera captures everything, her twisting the knob, frowning when no water comes out. Then, she does something that makes my blood boil. She pulls out a wrench. She's trying to bypass my shutoff valve. My heart hammers. This isn't petty anymore, this is criminal. I grab my phone and start recording the screen. I have her. This is the proof I need. But before I can do anything, my doorbell rings. I freeze. It's almost midnight. Through the peephole, I see 2 uniformed officers standing on my porch. My stomach sinks. I open the door cautiously. "Can I help you, officers?" One of them, a stocky man with a badge that gleams under my porch light, gives me a tight-lipped smile. "We got a report about suspicious activity near your house." My jaw clenches. I don't even have to ask who called. I keep my voice calm. Suspicious activity? I'm inside my house. The second officer, younger, shifts uncomfortably. "Your neighbor said she saw someone lurking around your property. Said she was concerned." I take a slow breath, my hands tightening into fists at my sides. Lurking? She means me. Karen is still out there. Watching. Waiting. I exhale sharply. Then, An idea hits me. I pull out my phone. Actually, officers, I'd like to show you something. I turn the screen toward them, playing the footage from my hidden camera. The officers watch as Karen, the very woman who called them, sneaks onto my property with a wrench, trying to tamper with my faucet. The younger cop's eyes widen. Wait, that's her. I nod. And I'd like to press charges for trespassing and attempted theft. For the first time all night, Karen doesn't look so smug. Karen doesn't know she's already lost. She's standing on her porch now, robe still cinched tight, arms crossed, watching with barely concealed amusement as the two officers look between me and the footage on my phone. She's waiting for them to dismiss me, to back her up, to put me in my place. The stocky officer, Sergeant Mills, according to his badge, shifts his weight. "Ma'am," he calls to Karen, his voice measured. "Can you come down here for a moment?" Karen steps forward, the same smug expression on her face she's worn since the day I moved in. She's still playing the victim, still convinced she's got the upper hand. "Oh, thank goodness you're here," she says, stepping onto her lawn like she's addressing an audience. "I was so scared. I saw someone sneaking around in the dark, and you know how things are these days." Her eyes flick toward me at those last words. How things are these days. I know exactly what she's implying. Mills frowns. "Right? About that." He gestures to my phone. "Mind explaining why this footage shows you on his property?" Karen doesn't even blink. "Oh, that's ridiculous. I was checking his faucet for a leak, which, by the way, could affect all of us. This is a community issue." I let out a sharp laugh. "A leak? You had a wrench." She rolls her eyes. "I had to bring tools because someone shut off their outdoor water supply. I mean, what kind of neighbor does that? It's so selfish." She says it like I should be ashamed. Like I'm the one in the wrong for refusing to let her steal from me. Mills folds his arms, unimpressed. "And why didn't you just knock on his door?" Karen scoffs. "Oh, please. I tried talking to him before, and he got so aggressive. I was honestly scared to confront him again." She turns to the younger officer, widening her eyes. "You understand, right?" She's playing the fragile white woman card now, trying to paint me as the angry black man who intimidated her. She actually thinks she can spin this. I stay calm. I don't take the bait. Instead, I tap my phone screen and zoom in on the footage. "Then why do you look perfectly relaxed while trespassing?" The younger officer, clearly uncomfortable, clears his throat. "Actually, ma'am, this footage shows intent. You weren't just checking for leaks. You were trying to bypass his shutoff valve. That's attempted theft." Karen's face twitches. "And," Mills adds, taking a step forward, "since you admitted to it on record just now, we've got enough to charge you with trespassing." The smugness vanishes. "Excuse me?" Mills looks over at me. "Would you like to press charges?" I don't answer immediately. I want to watch her squirm. Karen's mouth opens and closes like a fish gasping for air. She turns to her last defense, the one she thinks will save her. "You can't be serious. I'm the head of the HOA. I run this neighborhood." Mills cocks an eyebrow. "Ma'am, that doesn't mean you're above the law." She looks around, as if expecting neighbors to come to her aid. But the street is silent. Curtains are shifting. People are watching, but no one is stepping in to help her. Then she makes her final mistake. "You know what?" she hisses, her mask finally slipping. "You want to live here, but you don't respect the rules. You don't belong here." And there it is. The truth she's been choking on since the day I moved in. I tilt my head, letting the words hang between us. Then, with deliberate slowness, I step closer. "Say that again." I challenge, voice even. "Go ahead. Say it loud enough for the cameras to hear." Karen's face drains of color. She just now realizes. My security camera has been recording this entire conversation. Her hands curl into fists. She looks at Mills, then at the younger officer, desperate. "This is a misunderstanding. I didn't mean." Mills holds up a hand. "Ma'am, I think you've said enough." She lets out a strangled sound, like a wounded animal. "This is my neighborhood. You're supposed to be on my side. Mills doesn't respond. He pulls out his notepad. You're officially being cited for trespassing and attempted theft. I suggest you cooperate. Karen stares at him, then at me. Her breath is coming too fast. Her face is burning red. She thought she'd won. She thought she could humiliate me, control me, erase me. Instead, she's the one exposed. And there's no way out. Karen's world begins to crumble in real time. She whips around, eyes darting between the officers, then back to me, and for the first time, I see real fear in her expression. Not the manufactured kind she weaponizes when it suits her, but the fear of someone who just realized they've backed themselves into a corner with no way out. This is ridiculous, she shrieks, her voice cracking. I have rights. I pay my dues to this HOA. I run this neighborhood. Mills doesn't flinch. And you still committed a crime. He pulls out a citation pad and starts writing. Trespassing. Attempted theft. We could escalate this to tampering with private property, but I think these charges are a good start. Karen's hands shake as she points a manicured finger at me. He's the one who should be in trouble. He's being hostile. He has cameras spying on me. I hold up my phone and smile. Funny. You didn't seem to mind my cameras when you were using my water. The younger officer, Officer Riley, frowns. Spying? Ma'am, the footage shows you on his property. You do realize security cameras are legal, right? Karen's face turns blotchy red. Her usual arrogance is gone, replaced by desperation. She whirls toward the houses nearby, searching for backup. Are you all just going to stand there? And that's when she realizes this isn't just happening in the dark anymore. Neighbors have started coming out. I see Mrs. Patel from across the street, arms folded, shaking her head. The Lopez family stands on their porch, whispering. A couple of younger guys near the corner have their phones out, recording. Karen's whole body stiffens. She's no longer just facing me. She's facing an audience. And then the final nail in the coffin. Karen? The voice comes from behind us, firm and no nonsense. We all turn as another figure steps out of a nearby house. Mr. Thompson, the HOA president. Unlike Karen, who treats her position like a dictatorship, Thompson actually does his job. His expression is pure disappointment. What exactly am I looking at here? Karen lets out a strangled sound. T. Thomas. Oh, thank God. You won't believe what's happening. This man is accusing me of. Save it. Thompson cuts in sharp. I've been getting complaints about you for months. Karen freezes. What? He looks at me. You said you had security footage? I nod. And audio. I press play again, this time on the clip of Karen saying I don't belong here. Her voice, clear as day, carries across the quiet street. Thompson's jaw tightens. The murmuring from the neighbors grows louder. Karen's mouth opens and closes like she's gasping for air. That's not. I was taken out of context. Thompson exhales sharply, rubbing his temple. Karen, this is exactly what we've been getting complaints about. You've been overstepping your authority, harassing people, and now. He gestures to the officers. This is beyond anything I can ignore. Karen looks ready to faint. You can't fire me. I built this HOA from the ground up. Effective immediately. Thompson cuts her off, voice final. You're removed from any HOA responsibilities. We'll be calling an emergency meeting to replace you. Karen sways on her feet, her face now a sickly shade of white. You can't do this to me. But it's already happening. The neighbors are nodding. Some are whispering. And worst of all, the cameras are still rolling. Just leave. I tell her, voice steady. And don't ever touch my property again. She looks at me like she wants to lunge forward, but she knows she's lost. Completely. With no other choice, she turns and stomps back toward her house, slamming the door so hard it rattles the windows. The moment she's gone, Thompson turns back to me. If she bothers you again, let me know. He hesitates. And I want to personally apologize. This should have been handled a long time ago. I exhale, the tension finally leaving my shoulders. Better late than never. Officer Mills rips the citation from his pad and walks up to Karen's door. He slips it through her mail slot. She'll need to pay that fine. If she tries anything else, call us. I nod, watching as the officers head back to their patrol car. The neighbors slowly start retreating to their homes. But there's a shift in the air. A shift in the way they look at me. Before tonight, I was just the new guy. The outsider. The one Karen had labeled as not belonging. Now they know the truth. Karen's fall from grace isn't just a moment. It's a spectacle. The next morning, the HOA sends an official notice to every resident. The subject line? Immediate removal of HOA board member Karen Langley. It details her abuse of power, her unauthorized trespassing, and, of course, her recorded racist remarks. It even includes a warning that any further harassment from her should be reported directly to the HOA president. By noon, the whole neighborhood is buzzing. And Karen? She's nowhere to be seen. The same woman who strutted around the block, clipboard in hand, inspecting lawns and peeking over fences, is now a ghost. Her car is in the driveway, but the curtains are drawn. Not a single peep from her house. But the silence doesn't last. 2 days later, a city utility worker shows up at her door. Turns out, she's been siphoning water not just from me, but from the public water main. I don't know whether she started before or after I cut off her supply, but the result is the same. She's getting slapped with fines that make the HOA penalty look like pocket change. And it doesn't stop there. Someone, maybe one of the neighbors, maybe an old enemy, tips off a local reporter. The headline hits the neighborhood like an earthquake. Local HOA leader caught stealing water and harassing black neighbor. Gets publicly ousted. By the end of the week, she's a meme. Clips of her confrontation with the police circulate online. Her wild-eyed ranting and that damning, "You don't belong here" soundbite getting stitched into thousands of videos. She's trending. And not in a good way. She's done. And as for me, for the first time since I moved in, I feel at home. Neighbors who once ignored me now stop to chat. Mrs. Patel invites me over for tea. The Lopez family waves when I pass. Even the guys on the corner, the ones who filmed the whole thing, nod in respect. It's not that they were all bad people before, but they were silent. They let Karen's behavior slide because it didn't affect them. But now they see me, not as an outsider, not as an inconvenience, but as their neighbor. And Karen? One evening, I spot her on her porch, phone in hand, scrolling furiously. Maybe she's reading the articles about her. Maybe she's looking at the HOA fines stacking up. Maybe she's checking her inbox, watching as her social invitations disappear. One by one, she notices me watching and glares. But there's no power behind it anymore. She's been defeated. I turn away, step inside, and lock my door. For the first time since moving here, I don't have to wonder if someone's stealing from me, trespassing on my property, or plotting to run me out of my own home. I've won. And Karen? She's just a bitter woman with a dry faucet and a ruined reputation.